billboards, displays you would see like in an elevator or at a major bus stop. That's out-of-home advertising. And Canva currently has a takeover at London's Waterloo Station, where they've transformed 14 billboards into what is essentially live commentary on the design process. All these billboards represent like common mistakes or requests that designers hear all the time. So they've also been explaining some of their tools by showing it, not explaining it. So there's one where they have like a poster that plugs Canva's background remover tool, where the poster shows the background cut out, revealing the actual brick wall behind it. And they also have a large Canva logo, and the caption is, "When make the logo bigger goes a bit too far." Right. So a lot of these are just very like fun, kind of tongue in cheek, really easy to understand. Right. I think, of course, any designer can laugh at that, but a whole 16 by 9, 9 by 16, us non-designers, we have often made that mistake, right? Or something similar. Or for, again, us non-designers, it's, ooh, a background erasing tool. Let me see that, right?
Yeah.
So I think they are doing such a great job at this. And I want to call it out because out-of-home advertising is like, that's like the oldest marketing discipline, right? Ever since those like Coca-Cola billboards from back in the day. So it's a classic program, but Canva is doing it just extraordinarily well. And I feel like it's just, you got to recognize good marketing when you see good marketing. Look, out of home is expensive. So not everybody has the budget for it. But I think we can all get a really good lesson in the example of showing, not telling. Like, I think if you look at any of the photos of these campaigns, you could immediately see like, oh, this is really smart because it just shows what the pain point is. It shows what the solution is. You're right. It shows it all very visually, literally visually, without having to explain or set the whole thing up in like a 4-minute video. So I think it's just really cool and like really simple and elegant and worth talking about.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this reminds me of the Aura Ring campaign, right? Which is also heavy on billboards. As we were talking about zero-click marketing being on the rise, maybe we're also seeing off-platform ad campaigns rising as well, right? Last week we talked about how streaming ads on TV are becoming more accessible for smaller brands. Probably because, you want to start being able to compete with, Google ads, search ads, keyword ads, social media ads and all that. Like, how are we kind of giving people more options to like get in front of consumers? So I think this is great. Yeah, it'd be great to find out like if, billboards can become a little bit more accessible for companies.
Yeah.
Because that would be cool. I think that's also one of those things where as a marketer, I've always wanted to have like a billboard campaign, just like
for
so
sure.
you can,
Yeah, same here.
take a
And
photo with it.
I think so. I mean, I think if you were to like really try to keep a pulse on it, sometimes you can buy like remnant space on a billboard for not that much money.
Yeah.
I don't want to like say exact dollars because it could be
Right.
wrong, but like
Yeah.
I'll just say it doesn't have to be like 10 grand plus sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes. But that might be if you're really scoping it out and keeping an eye on things.
Honestly,
But
that's
yeah.
probably why they chose Waterloo. Smaller places are going to cost a little bit less versus like being in like, Times Square, right? The attention that you're getting because it's like so visual and so like out of character for that area is probably giving them a lot more eyeballs than they would have gotten if they had just kind of been, at a bigger London station.
Yeah, no, Sonia, that's exactly it.
Okay.
Because now they can look at the incremental lift in overall performance, right? So instead of like doing one billboard in like 10 major cities, it would be really hard to figure out what's actually effective.
Right.
Now they can have this concentrated smaller area and they can look at things like if there's a lift in search in that area, or like if they're able to attribute revenue, which sometimes they can based on a certain region, like that would help them figure out how successful the campaign ultimately is. And I think that's kind of like the ideal sort of out of home program where you can see that, where you can see the overall lift and you can see overall measurement, and it's not so much about, one-to-one attribution, right? But they can see like, okay, after this time period of like 3 weeks or a month or whatever it
Mhm.
is, they can see more definitively like, oh, this was effective here. We were seeing more people search for our product or convert, around this time. But
Yeah.
yeah.
It's slightly different from what I was trying to say. What I was trying
Mm.
to say is that we are finding out about this online and through like all the like press hits that they got, even though Waterloo Station is kind of random, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
like
true.
they're getting more eyeballs because they took over basically a random station in London and are now getting additional eyeballs, everywhere. Like we're finding out about this here in the US. And so that was like what made it successful to me. And so thinking about your campaigns in that way, it doesn't
Mhm,
have to be the biggest billboard or one billboard in, Times Square or
mhm.
in like, downtown London, but like is there a smaller city that you could take over where the fact that you did this takeover is what is making the news, not the campaign itself?
Yeah, no, that is a really good point. Yeah, I think that's really spot on too.
Mhm.
Because it's also like, as we're talking about it, we're not talking about it like, oh, Canva had a cute billboard somewhere,
Right.
right? We're talking about the full story. Like,
Right.
we're talking about the multiple types of billboards that they had, the
Hmm.
different kinds of messaging that they're conveying. Like, it's a cohesive story, right?
Hmm.
Like, we're not talking about one-off thing.
Yeah,
And to your point, right? Like, I think if it were just one billboard, even if it was in Times Square, we wouldn't be talking about it. It would just be
definitely.
like, oh, cool, they had some money and they put it
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, if anything, it'd be like, oh, they just kind of wasted, money there. Like, obviously, billboards in Times Square work. Like, some of the more memorable ones
Yeah.
that I remember are like when they did the Twitter, like people talking about what they were going to achieve at some point, and then having Twitter kind of like say, like, oh, look, this, they talked about this
Oh,
on Twitter, right? Like,
that was a
uh,
good
that
campaign.
was a really good
Yeah.
campaign because
Yeah.
just
That was
like
good.
it's real people putting out their tweets, and that's how they're putting the
Yeah.
campaign out there. So that I think is like really successful. One other thing I want to point out here is the news hits that you get when your marketing campaign is different than what is expected. I
Hmm.
think this is also what worked really well with the Valtteri Bottas announcement, because it wasn't just a regular announcement of like, hey, he's in the uniform and he's in the car. Like this is
Hmm.
like, no, he's talking about it in a different way, in a way that matches his humor. And so they ended up getting a lot more eyeballs because of the difference in the way that they made the announcements. That doesn't fit kind of like the template. So I think there's a lot of creativity that you can put towards your campaigns if you start thinking about things not and not trying to compete with everybody else, right? That's another thing that when we were talking about Cluely, right? It's like you're not going to succeed by copying what they do. You have to be able to put that in the way that is going to most benefit you and your company. And what works for them is not necessarily going to work for you. You have to customize it to work for your company.